So good morning everyone. Right, so in this video I thought it'd be good to talk about market maker models. In particular, we're going to discuss market maker buy models because that's the examples that have in recent price action. Now, I think they're important because they give you a direction, right? They give you targets and they sort of help with the higher time frame, lower time frame, and even your execution time frame as well. Because price is fractal, you'll see these patterns repeating over all time frames, right? So it allows us and gives me a bit more clarity, or a lot more clarity, especially in direction. I'll explain that as we're going through, right? You'll see these market maker buy models presenting themselves over multiple time frames. So I'll explain how they look like, what they are, for you to recognize the pattern, possibly use them yourself. So we're going to start here on the weekly. It will give a bit more context to what we're looking at. So if we just look at this recent price action, obviously from this year, January, price has been bullish, right, pushing to the upside. So the pressure is very clear. So even on the weekly, right, this past price action where this high is here, this little small consolidation, we had this downtrend and then uptrend here. So this forms this type of V shape, okay? Now, that is pretty much the basis of a market maker buy model. So this is a larger weekly time frame buy model, right, which will be much clearer on the lower time frame. So we'll get rid of that for now anyway. So you can see where price mitigated this imbalance zone here. So weekly imbalance, but this is the monthly imbalance zone here as a bullish POI or PDA, whatever you want to call it. So it took out the sell side liquidity, and then here price bottomed out and eventually started moving bullish. So on the daily, this market maker buy model here that I showed will be a lot clearer. Okay, so all of this here is just for the recent price action. So you can see we had this inverse fair value gap here that was resistance initially for this week, okay, and then later used as support when we pulled back after breaking it. Same here with this BPR, we have this gap, and this gap price broke through that, no problem. It didn't use this as resistance, came back, used it as support. So this is that bullish bias. We made a high, we had a pullback, made a new high, had a pullback, right, mitigated this fair value gap here. We respected this fair value gap and had a bullish week since, and price I expect to head for this buy side liquidity high here. Okay, so that's my weekly vision here, as you can see with this arrow, for price to come from this bullish PDA here and head for this buy side liquidity if we are to continue bullish. So that's enough of the weekly picture. Just needed to show you that bullish outlook and how now the market maker buy models present themselves on the time frames lower than the weekly. Okay, so we'll discuss this one briefly first here on the daily time frame, right? So you'll see me discuss this price action here. Right, so as price is fractal, and as I said on the weekly, it would be a lot more clearer on the daily, right? This is the high that started this down move here. So this would be what we'd call as a original consolidation, or just the source of a market maker model, right? So this would be what we would call the sell side of the leg, right? The sell side curve. And then to the low of that, right, which is here, we can separate this price action using the low point, and it forms this shape here, right? So it's like a T zone, but it is a V overall. Okay, so we have this downside and this upside here. So as I said, we would call this the sell side of the curve for a buy model and the buy side of the curve. Okay, so as you can see, as I said, we had our consolidation up here initially. Price broke down, made lower high, lower low, lower high, lower lows, right, all the way down to this section here. And then when price bottomed out, of course, it's taken some liquidity here. And then eventually, you can see we showed our first signs of the bullish model coming into play here, right, with this break of structure here. So we had this market shift here, price made a new high, pull back down, mitigated an order block around this zone here, which also had obviously a small fair value gap around that zone there as well. So not to overanalyze, what we see here is this market maker model, right, forming. So price is obviously going to bottom out first here on the daily, right? We got that expansion, right? After we swept some sell side liquidity, expanded, price pulled back, respected this order block here. Price eventually went on to obviously make a clearer second expansion, right, of this order flow, likely news related because of all of that momentum there. And it begins to take out these highs, right, that will form these lower highs, eventually coming up to actually take out the source. Okay, so this is what market maker model looks like. We have the sell side curve and we have the buy side curve. Right, so that's why during this time frame here, once we had broken above on the daily, this allowed me to input this line here where we can use this as the low to the high, and we can start seeing the buy side curve being fulfilled, obviously using the higher time frame analysis as well, where price had mitigated this monthly fair value gap, etc., to then break above, and you got those signs on the daily of a daily market maker buy model coming into play here. And we'd also have our lower time frame market maker model fractals for us to trade on as day traders. So that was this past buy model. So as price is fractal, what you'll see is the same pattern appearing between, say, this V shape here, this pullback, and V shape here, right? On the 1 hour time frame, for example, this would be another V shape here, right? For price to pull back, it's mitigated a higher time frame POI, right? It's then probably broken structure here on the 1 hour and then gone and targeted its original consolidation as well, right? So these V shapes that are formed are important. We use those higher time frame order blocks as well, or fair value gaps, whatever may be presented to us, to then watch price mitigate those and switch structure on our lower time frames, right? And we can target the highs of these areas here, right? Not necessarily as a day trader because we'll have smaller fractals within there, but it will give us those days and days of bias and direction, right, to complete our market maker buy models. Now, price won't always complete those models. As you can see, say here, it didn't do that initially and then eventually broke through it, but you would have had a few days here of bullish price action, right? Price pulled back to something on the lower time frames, and then you could have targeted another small fractal in here. So I hope that's coming across clear. But let's go into our more recent price action now, right, where I have everything analyzed and looked into, so we can actually look into these models again and show you the fractals of these. So here we have our current price action, right? We have our sell side of the curve here, where price pulls back and creates our sell side curve. Right, so sell side of the curve, price mitigated a high time frame POI, price started to break down, we came up, we had this bearish BPR here, so we had this high here, made a low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right, down to the point where we mitigate this daily fair value gap here, which is also where that weekly fair value gap was, and price began to bottom out. So we see price make this high here, this high low, high high, high low, high high, up into our current price action, right, forming what I would identify as now the buy side curve, the buy side of this leg. So as you can see at the top here, I have buy side liquidity target there, right, our market maker buy model target. Price has been mitigating and, you know, breaking swing highs, so we have a high high created. We pulled back quite deeply here, but essentially respected this daily order block. Okay, made a new high again. As you can see with this, we've pulled back and we're respecting this old BPR here so far on the daily today, right? So this here is, don't worry about this. This is just days that I won't be trading this week due to NFP. So I'm not going to explain everything about market maker buy model, right? But just going to help you identify these patterns, and you can go and look into these ICT concepts for market maker buy models and sell models. Right, a sell model, of course, will just be the reverse of this. So if we option I, you can see we'd be creating a buy side curve here up into a PDA, right, on a higher time frame, and then price then topped out and began to break down, and we would use the low here as original consolidation, and we would target the buy side liquidity highs, right, if we was using the higher time frame. Okay, looking for pullbacks to our PDAs to continue from. So let's continue, right? As I said, because we are bullish on the daily and the weekly anyway, I'm expecting classic buy day, sell days, right? London low of the day, continuations in New York, stuff like that, targeting previous daily highs and all that lovely stuff with our ultimate target here. Until this target is met, or until we actually start to break down on the daily, right? Breaking our model into a possible sell model, then I will be targeting this high. So that's why I like these patterns and these models, because I think they're important for direction. So let's go to the 4-hour, where this market maker buy model will look even clearer. So just zoomed out, you can see where price obviously began to bottom out on the 4-hour first, showing those early signs. We created this sell side curve here, okay, and then we made this high, low, right, sweeping sell side liquidity into a BPR, made a new high. Again, we mitigated our fair value gap here to its midpoint, made a new high, pulled back, mitigated this order block, made a new high. Now we did get this deeper correction here, right, after we've taken some high time frame buy side liquidity, and I believe there is an old PDA there, right, or POI, and we had that deep pullback back into this fair value gap here, took the sell side liquidity, as you can see with this, but we still respected our midpoint of that fair value gap, right, which is great. Price then climbed higher, made a higher low here, and then a higher high, breaking that external high anyway, and this internal high. So we had a breaker block, a fair value gap, price broke above it, respected it, made a new high. Now what price is doing today, of course, has made a new high, pulled back down into this zone here, where we have this BPR that price is respecting, and order block, which price is respecting here. So I expect now another market maker buy model fractal, which is internal to the larger market maker buy model up here to this low, right, for us to look to target. So as you might notice, as price has been creating this buy side of the curve, we're going to see smaller, more fractal market maker buy models here every time price has pulled back to a higher time frame or lower time frame POI here. On the 1 hour, mostly 15-minute, right, 2 time frames down, you're going to see the market maker models a lot more clearly. There should be one here as well, of course, and then I'm expecting one to play out here up into this zone as well. So we have fractals that we can target. Even here you'd probably have a 5-minute market maker model, right? So I hope these are becoming clear now. Okay, so we are in a bullish trend. So once price started making this bullish order flow, and when we pull back to our POIs, we are creating a sell side of the curve here. Price bottoms out, and then on a lower time frame, like the 15-minute, you'll see those early signs of the market structure shift, and then pull back, and we'll complete that buy side of the curve, and that is what I'm looking to trade. So now we've created a sell side of the curve here, and we are waiting the creation of the buy side of the curve with our clear target now up at this zone here. All right, so that is the market maker buy model on the 4-hour. Let's go to the 1 hour. We'll start seeing these fractals a lot more clearly as well. So the 4-hour you can skip over, right? I use the 1 hour more than the 4-hour, but when you need more clarity, and if you want to see that sort of higher time frame daily market maker model with a bit more clarity, you can go down to the 4-hour. So here we are on the 1 hour. This is the market maker buy model that I'm waiting to be involved in to trade up until this point here, right? So even though we have that larger daily buy model, right, in play with a much higher target for day trading, right, I'm going to use the 1 hour model, this fractal of the higher time frame model. So the higher time frame model is driving the direction, right, and I expect these models to complete because they are on the lower time frames, but especially the execution time frame models to complete. So this morning there would have been one here with this Asia range, right, from this low to this current high here on the 5-minute, 2-minute. That would have been a nice buy model there. Unfortunately, I didn't get any entry. So what do we have here? We have this 1 hour bullish price action. We pulled back. We've got 1 hour order block, with imbalance. We've got an old imbalance here and old fair value gap, right, which has all been respected, and we've swept sell side liquidity. We've got an early sign of a market structure shift right here. Okay, now I prefer candle closures above, so I may wait for more, but it doesn't mean it's not a market structure shift, of course, right, by seeing that high being stabbed through here. Okay, it's a bit of a negative that it didn't close above it, but that's fine. Now, of course, we have our 1 hour fair value gap here forming as well to use as a PDA to trade in that direction. Okay, so I hope that's starting to become clear. We'll start targeting these highs, these areas here, buy side liquidity up here, and also a higher time frame BPR, old BPR, which may attract price as well. So as you can see, I've got that line down the middle here because it's a potential market maker buy model, of course. So now that we've established a low and we've possibly making that market shift, I can put this line in here, right, to show sell side of the curve, right, and then we can also then expect this side to be the buy side of the curve. Right, there's other things we can do with Fibonacci where we can show where our midpoint is, right, to do with pullbacks, but I'd rather you research the model properly yourselves. Okay, but this fib is very helpful too, because it's where we expect deeper pullbacks in this discount and shallow pullbacks in this premium, but I won't go too deep into the model itself with that. So early signs of this market shift here, right? Of course, we're in a bullish trend, but we've pulled back, and now we've started to show that we may be ready to go bullish again. Okay, so let's go down to the M15 as well, because that's part of the analysis. You'll see this market maker buy model even clearly again, and you'll see our fractal market maker buy model here as well. So this M15 V shape here, of course, on the M5 was a nice clear market maker buy model that I didn't really get the entry I wanted, right? So you can see here, Asia range high, price pulled back, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, right? They made that low, sweeping all that price action here, and then price began to break structure. Didn't give me anything to play off of. Okay, it just obviously mitigated those 1 hour, 15-minute order blocks here, and just made its own way to that target. So it was a fractal market maker buy model on the execution time frame, which is how I trade, right? So I would have needed a nice break of structure above these highs here. Let's get this arrow out. So just break of structure above those highs here, some sort of pullback, however it was going to do it. Pull back, break structure again, pull back. You know, you can trade it out in whichever way obviously you're comfortable with, right? Sweep of liquidity, break of structure, pull back. You could have entered here, you could have entered here, whichever way feels more comfortable to you in your plan, right? Targeting there, so that's how it helps me with targets. Okay, so that didn't play out, but what's great is we still have the larger model here on the, say, 1 hour M15 time frame. So we've broken that structure there, we've broken above, right? M15 looks very clear to me. I need a pullback to either there's this 1 hour fair value gap here, or as you can see, right, what I was looking for earlier after this sort of shifting structure was we have this fair value gap, we have this order block here, and we have this breaker block here, right, because it was the up candle before we swept liquidity. So it's a very strong area to look for confluence, and it still is, right, because we have the 1 hour fair value gap nearby as well. So what I'll be looking for there is now you'll see another fractal being created if price pulls back down to here. This is now what, sell side of the curve, and then once price, you know, bottoms out, breaks above, pulls back, then we'll start getting our buy side of the curve there, and that would be our market maker model fractal, right? On the 5 minute, we would have our line here. Let's say if it appears here, and that's what it would look like for me, and that would be my main target. I would remove most of my profit if I'm in the trade around this zone here, but then of course I would leave some. Let's say we get in a trade somewhere like this, I'd take away a lot of the profits around this zone here, then of course I'd leave some to run, maybe taking more at highs around these zones here. So that would be what that model would look like. Okay, of course I'd be taking that on the execution time frames, right? So when the 5 minute, if it does decides to, of course, pull pull back to this zone here for New York, and then I'll be looking to trade this buy side of the curve, targeting London highs, and then ultimately the high up here on the 1 hour and M15. See how much of that we can get to play out during this day. So I hope that was clear. I hope that's informative, right? Go and look into market maker models. ICT has a video on those. Okay, and if you liked it, let me know in the comments. And remember to subscribe, and I'll see you guys soon.